Welcome to our Inventive Agents and Investors nationwide. Today is Thursday, March 27th, 2025, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 521. After a 3-week absence, Tim is back today. So Tim, I'll let you get the show started. Take it away.
Well, thank you. How's everybody doing? Hey, I don't have a lot of stuff to start us off with other than to apologize for my absence. I went through two rounds of deciding to be sick 2 days in a row, and I'm all better now. And had big doings here in Florida. We've been it's the spring season, so my wife has a little goat farm here, and we've been having goat babies the last 2 weeks. So we're overloaded with cuteness. A lot of good stuff happening. The one thing two things I'll say. One is that this call is about you, and you know that, but I want to reiterate how we'd like to hear from you. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a heart down there at the bottom. And if you click on the heart, you'll see that right above it says raise hand. That's how you become notified, or we become notified that you've got a question, you want something to share, something you'd like to talk about, anything like that. So please hit the heart, raise your hand, and we definitely want to talk with you about that. And we want to talk about what you are interested in. The purpose of this call is to talk about not only the products that we offer and the things that we do together, but anything that you want to talk about in terms of your process, your sales process, the challenges that you're finding, what's going on in your market, the place to share. And that's really what this is all about. So we definitely want to hear from you about all of those things. We're here to talk about probate, divorce, reprobate, aged expired, late mortgages. We want to hear about what you have to say, and we definitely want to hear about your successes. So that's kind of where we're at. I see Matt has joined us here. Matt, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. Doing well. Matt is the head Fred at our wonderful folks who make calls for us. They're the folks that we refer you to, and they do a great job. How's things going over there, bud? Any exciting things to share?
Yeah, no, things are good. I'm seeing a lot of people are kind of starting to put their houses up. It seems like we're getting a lot more traction. We got a client that's taken 5 listings so far, which is pretty awesome. So very pumped about that. And yeah, I mean, we're just seeing it just seems like there's more activity across the board. I think people are starting to finally realize that now is the time and they got to do something. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that I've had 3 or 4 phone calls, kind of I talked to a lot of the other folks in our industry that have companies similar to ours, or our partners and other people that we deal with, and it is very geographically centralized in terms of what's going on. I mean, even in our state, Jim and I were having a conversation the other day that in South Florida the condo market has slowed a bit, and there's a big day supply of that. Single family is going extremely well and much shorter day supply. We're here in Central Florida. Here, new construction is through the roof. I mean, new construction is going crazy. So they just can't get enough wood and stuff in here to build fast enough. And the big thing now is they're building single family residential detached homes for rental only. And those are going up really quickly. So that seems to be what's going on here trend wise. I don't know. Let's look across the country a little bit. Bill, I see that you're on here. I'm going to ask you a quick question here, bud. In your marketplace, how do you kind of see where things are going at this point?
Well, I think it's just really price point driven. So if you're like 1.5 to 3 million, you're sitting. If you're 1.5 or less, it's pretty fluent. If you're 900,000 or less, it's rocking. You're going to get multiple offers. Condos are selling outside of San Francisco. I would say the condo market in San Francisco, in my opinion, is in a free fall. Especially when your HOA dues are 1,800 a month. I don't know how that is doable. And then Oakland is kind of its own unique little thing. Realtors continue. So Contra Costa, Alameda, they constantly, like, the house is worth 1.8 million. They list it for 900,000. They give these multiple crazy offers, and they laugh at you when you look at the comps and they make your offer priced on that, and then it sells for 2 million. So it's really geographic right now. It's a little crazy. The big thing I'd say is San Jose. You can call it the tech area in Salinas, which a lot of people have moved tech there, is pretty much 60 to 90 days on the market. So, but the thing that I think is really vivacious or exciting is that people are selling their probates, people are selling their divorces because another thing I added to my divorce was I could send them my mortgage broker's information because someone always has the idea, which I'm dealing with right now, that they can afford to buy the other person out, except for they have a 2.5 interest rate. There's no way they can afford to buy the other person out at 7%. But so I just think that when you're focusing, you really want to focus on the have to sells, which is probate, divorce, late pays, foreclosures. I think that's just where the market's at for us. But, and also over 70 is a really good market. I'm hoping I'm answering your question here.
Oh, that's great. That's exactly what we're looking for is kind of a just across the board perspective. Steve, what about you, bud? How do you see it?
So some of the stuff I've recently looked at is Gen Z, not so much into home ownership, really more into, like you were saying, new houses, new builds that are for rent and are seeking to rent. So there's not necessarily the same, they haven't caught the bug for the American dream of home ownership and are renting. Of course, my market is very different than Bill's. Here I am in central Pennsylvania, nowhere near the amount of money or affluence that, in the market that he deals in.
It's all relative, though,
Yeah, but days on market are they go. The houses go. There's a shortage. That's a problem, and they're not building them fast enough, if you will. So yeah, it's interesting to see, but a lot more folks rental, and I don't know if it's rental because either they don't qualify. I look at folks who can go qualify for a conventional mortgage. Only about 25% right now are qualifying. So that leaves.
It's interesting. You both talked about the mortgage side of this, and Bill's going as far as sending the broker information out with it. And we've talked before about co-marketing with other people to not only help defray some of your costs, but solidify those relationships. We talk about building a team and making sure that you're doing it. It's a great time to be doing that work where if you know that people that you're talking to at some point pretty quickly, if they are selling or they are going to go buy rather, they're going to need that mortgage to get that done. It's a great time to walk hand in hand with your mortgage broker of choice into working with them. And you may want to put some paper on the street with that. Do a mailing with your mortgage broker that talks about that, how you can spoon feed them through the process, get the mortgage broker to work with them as well. Great time to spin that up. Coley, I see you've got your hand up there, bud, and I don't want to miss you. So what do you got to say, bud?
Hey, how's everybody been?
Good, bud. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. So I have a probate deal that I'm working on as far as meeting up at the seller appointment. And the challenge is she's made it an open house. So I'm wondering how to stand out amongst the competition. Of course, I want to show up maybe with some market material as well as an offer in hand. But any suggestions is kind of how to stand amongst the competition for an open house. It's not being actively listed on the market, as far as I know, because they're not working with a realtor. And the lady that's showcasing the home, she's the sibling of the executor who lives out of state. So she's not the primary decision maker.
So what is your objective in terms of this? What do you want to come out of it with?
My objective is the wholesale. The house is in pretty poor condition, so I don't feel like it's going to be worth renovating and trying to put on the market. As far as when I consulted with one of my realtor friends, and yeah, just want to figure out how to navigate this deal.
How long is the open house for?
I think she's hosting it Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. I plan on showing up first on Tuesday and trying to get a stab at it.
I mean, one of the best tactics I heard a long time ago was that there was a Jim. I won't name the names, but I heard a similar situation. And the main thing that they did is they did exactly what you did. They showed up early. They showed a lot of interest, and they said, "Hey, I'd like the right of first refusal. I'll top any offer." Well, the reality is, you know, you may not do that, but you certainly would like the opportunity to do that. You understand what I mean? In other words, if
Yeah,
somebody comes in and eyeballs them, you know, you're not going to want to pay that kind of money, but you know, you can get that opportunity if you make a good conversation with them. It's a good place to start that conversation to basically offer to beat anybody else's offer. You're there first. Doesn't mean you're going to buy it unless you wanted to make a crazy offer. But even if you did that, they'd probably still keep it open for the whole time. So, you know, make a good relationship with them in the beginning and make that offer to them as a place to start. That's just a suggestion I have. Anybody else? Jim, you got any suggestion about that?
No, just the wording of that. I think this is what you meant. I certainly wouldn't say that I'll beat any other offer, which is kind of what you said, but you want the opportunity to.
That's what I said. Yeah, opportunity.
Yeah. Obviously, because you don't know what the offer is going to be, but either the price or the terms of any other offer. Yeah, it's an interesting way to start because it kind of sets the playing field for where they think for what they think they have to improve on. And the reality is, going through a 2-day open house, they probably won't get any other offers. I mean, it depends on the market, but how often do people actually get an offer at the open house in your market, Coley? Does that happen often?
I'm not too sure. I just relocated actually from California to New York, so I'm still getting
Oh,
used to this market over here. Where I'm really originally from here, but as far as the real estate market, it's all a new game to me. I'm kind of learning it now.
yeah.
Where in
We
New York
got
are you?
we got a couple houses down the street from us. They've had an open house every weekend for like 4 months now, and they haven't had any offers yet. But I mean, it obviously varies. These are $1 million plus homes too. But yeah, that's an interesting perspective. The only other thing I was going to say also, take that same philosophy that we teach when you're making your phone calls and show up with something that might be helpful to them.
Hmm.
I mean, it could be is the decision is the heir who is there now. You said she's a relative of the decision maker. Is she living there?
I'm not too sure exactly. I don't think so. I think the home is vacant, and she's like, I'm tired of going back and forth and cleaning it up, so I'm just going to offer maybe that leverage, like we'll take it as is. I do have a
Yeah, I mean,
contractor on my team as well if I wanted
you
to
could
fix and flip it. But yeah,
you could show up with a no trespassing sign and just tell them, this will kind of protect you if you get any squatters. That often
true,
happens.
true.
Um, you could obviously show up with a CRM just for their information and show them the ranges of what the house is worth as is, fixed up, or quick sale. Give them multiple options. Yeah. Other than that, I think it's one of my original mentors used to say it's like the first person that shows up after they've made their mind, or after they've made their mind up, they're ready, or the one that makes the best impression. And the fact that everybody else is going to show up and just be interested in buying it or listing it, and you give any help at all, hopefully you'll leave a better impression. And showing up both days isn't a bad idea either. be the first one and the last one there. When I used to go on listing appointments, I had mixed feelings, because if I was real confident, I'd want to be first before another agent got there. If I didn't feel like I had a real relationship, I'd want to be last. So I could be the closer at the end there. So yeah, I mean, depending on how it goes the first day, you may want to show up both days.
Roger made a good point, which is one of the things you may want to focus on is to focus on the net that they're getting. And, you're in your offer, make sure that you talk about you're going to pay all their closing costs. So you may want to make your deal look different than anybody else's as well, so that it's not just a top line offer. It's what they're going to walk away with, and you're gonna handle the closing costs. The other thing that occurred to me that I remembered from the same conversation of the guy that I was talking to about before, he always showed up when he went to an open house. He brought a gift, and what he usually brought was something consumable, but it was remembered. He brought
Hmm.
donuts or something like that. Put his business card on the box, And that way the person that's having the open house, they'll remember you. You know, if it's a big one.
Yeah.
Now, if the house is not in good shape and all that, probably not gonna be that many people coming through it anyway. How are
And
they?
by the way,
Well,
Terrence, just go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So the other thing is, it sounds like the sister wants to be done. So I just think you need to take all the suggestions that you're getting and just close it with like, aren't you ready to be done? Right? Aren't you ready to get your money? And that's what I would do, because it sounds like the sister's ready to be done.
And we just had a text from Terrence, made a really good point, something we didn't mention. Show up with a recommendation for a vacant insurance company or a vacant insurance quote, because they probably don't know that if that house is not being occupied, it may not be insured. So that's something that really shows you have their best interests at heart. Thank you,
Yeah.
Terrence. Good.
Ollie, I just have a question. How are they marketing this open house?
I'm not too sure. That's what kind of threw me back. I think that other people, of course, are targeting the probate leads. So I figure that other investors and realtors are finding them that way, but they're not actively marketing it.
So basically you found out about it by reaching out, and then they told you we're going to hold, an open house, quote unquote, for 2 days. And that's how you found out about it?
I found out, yeah, I contacted my lead list, and then I got in touch with the brother who's the executor. He's like, I'm away in Texas, but my sister, I can pass her your information. And she called me today and was like, oh, the open house is next week if you want to come through.
Okay. So you don't really know, like, did they market it because they're doing a for sale by owner, or if they're just like throwing it up for 2 days and whatever and telling the people who are calling them?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. The impression I get is they just want to move on and get rid of the house as soon as possible, but it's kind of stuck in probate. They say there's some type of delay, but they do have a will, and I think I'm pretty sure the brother is identified as a decision maker.
Right. Yeah. No, because I think a lot of times people don't really realize all the steps that it really takes to get from point A to point Z. And they're like, oh, I'll just be a for sale by owner, or I'll just throw it up because everybody wants to come and see it. And they think that they can really manage that. And so I think all the suggestions were amazing. Of course, show up first thing, show up again at the end, and make sure that you're like you front ended and back ended. And I definitely am a big advocate of bringing something like, oh, you're here for 2 days. Here's, a box of cookies or a platter of chocolate, whatever it is. I think that that's, memorable for sure. And, a probate checklist, everything that needs to be done, the wheels of your team and everything that all the people that help you, and really emphasize on it's no small feat. Do you really want to go at it alone?
One more quick thing to add that I doubt anybody else is doing is, I would always try to start with a question. So, the person you're having a conversation with, just say, they mentioned there was a bit of a hang up with the probate. Do you mind me asking what's the issue? Is there anything I can help with? Find out what that is. And it might just be as simple as they don't think that they can sell until the probate's done. And you might be the one to tell them, well, just, all you gotta do is have your attorney apply for full authority, or, it is possible in most states that you can go ahead and close much sooner. But find out what the issue is and see if that's something you may be able to help them with.
I'm not
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know in Florida, that's the case that you can do that. I'm not sure if that's okay. That's the same in New York, but it's worth finding out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that you should know as well, Coley. You need to do your research so that you always know what you're talking to them about in that regard. Where in New York is the property?
This is in Suffolk County, out on Long Island.
Okay. Have you driven the property yet?
No, it's not too far, actually. It's like about 15 minutes away. So, but it might be an idea to do a drive by.
You might want to go look, and it often will tell you something about it. If there's a sign in the front posting it as an open house, that's one thing to know. That says they're marketing it. Otherwise, how's anybody going to show up? Are they running an ad in the paper? How are they letting people know that it's available? And it may just be that anybody who's calling about it, it's got a for sale sign, and they're trying to not show it and spend a lot of time on it. So they made everybody wait until the open house. People don't market real well sometimes. So you should know everything you can, but I'd go look at the house before you go there.
Yeah, thanks. This is all amazing information. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Hey, Terrence, you had your hand up there, bud. Did you have something else you wanted to chime in there with?
Oh, I think what I did was put a thumbs up because someone had said something about the vacant insurance quote, and then I just did a thumbs up or what have you. But
Okay.
since I might as well just make a comment since I'm already on. So, question I was going to ask maybe for Coley is, I know we're talking about a difference between, in terms of a wholesaling process, a difference between the how quickly they want to get rid of this, their main motivation, because a lot of times they can hide their true motivation. So sometimes they may say that, yes, I want to get rid of it quickly, but the moment somebody comes in and offers them $5,000 more than what you originally offered, they'll wait a little longer to get that 5,000. So the question is, have we truly identified their number one motivation? And if the number one motivation is speed, I think Bill had mentioned something in terms of everything that you can do to make the process simple, smooth, and fast, but also let them know that there is some sort of a trade-off with getting it done. I can get it done quicker, but just know that I might not be able to get all the equity out of it. And if you can get oh, that's okay, that makes sense, then you're in there. Just make sure you follow through, but make sure that you hone in on the main true motivation. Is it speed or is it money?
Great. That's good. Steve?
So Coley did a quick Gemini search while we were discussing, and you can sell the house in probate in New York. I put it in the text, but it says there are specific steps, which doesn't outline what it is. Obtaining court approval with the executor having the authority to sell the property. So they may not know that, and it's often the case. I mean, folks we deal with have never dealt with probate before, and the very best they're ever going to be is when they finish. So you have that at least going for you, and that might be a piece of information or value you can provide to the sister.
And Coley, if you're Steve, that's a great segue to this. If you're kind of just getting started with this and learning it, I'll ask a question. I suspect I might know the answer. Have you met with any probate attorneys yet? Oh, Coley, I'm sorry. Unmute there, buddy.
Not since I moved to New York, but I've connected with probate attorneys over in California. And I mean, as far as the motivation, I think it's because the house is pretty run down. I think it needs a lot of repair from like some flooding issue, I believe. So I think that's the main motivation. They don't want to put all this money into the house to renovate it and then to put it on the market. So that's why they're trying to sell it with cash. But they've been getting a lot of low balls, I think is the issue.
Yeah, what I was going to suggest though is that the fundamentals here. You need to at least have had at some point pretty quickly a conversation with a probate attorney, somebody who handles probate in New York, so that you kind of got your act together in terms of what you need to know. If you're going to work this, you need to know, what the angles are, what's going on, what's the difference between, the boroughs of New York. Are there differences in what goes on there, depending on how it gets heard, and same thing for the island. If that's your marketplace, you got to know what's going on, and you need to find that attorney that you can work with, sort your leads by, attorney, and go take a look and see who's doing the most probate, see if you can get some time with them. But you need to get those answers because that's a big part of kind of knowing what you're doing. That's critical. Steve?
Another venue too might be the clerk at the courthouse to determine what the steps are. They should be able to tell you that because they're the ones who are actually going to look at that, make sure the paperwork's straight before it gets completed.
Okay. All right, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Keep us posted. We'd like to hear more about it. All right. Enough. So what else, folks? What other good and exciting things have you got going on?
We haven't had a winner. We haven't had a winner of the week story yet.
We don't talk about that enough.
Yeah. Who has a success story with anything really, but in particular with probate, divorce, or their late mortgage leads? Anybody get a listing, get a sale lately? Jump in and tell us what you do.
We offer a reward for that as well. If you share a great win of the week, you get $100 in goodies from us. So we definitely want to encourage you to talk about the good things that are happening for you. So if you've got something like that, you've got something going on, you've taken some listings, things like that, we definitely want to hear. Eric, how you doing?
Doing great.
Got to unmute yourself there, bud. It remuted. There you go.
Doing great. I double-ended one last week and have it was probate, and then have another probate closing tomorrow.
That's awesome. Tell us a bit more about the deals.
As I'm noticing, it's a lot of nurturing. The lady, the personal representative, her sister died, but she had already had a listing with an agent, and so she was leaning going that way, but she decided to go with me after providing value. And then the other one, I was in competition with two other guys, and they were offering to list for lower than what I was going to, and I got my professional fee handled.
Very good.
What value did you provide in the first case, Eric? What extra did you give them that they liked the best?
In which case?
Oh, I thought you said the first one. I thought you said you got it against some competition because
I think having the website is valuable, and then also just branding myself as a probate specialist, whereas other agents are just agents, and like I know how to handle it. I know how to speak to attorneys. I know the whole process, and I can basically hold their hand through it.
We hear that over and over again, that the folks that end up doing the best are the people who invest in what they're doing. They have a website. They really put some of their soul into that website. It's theirs, and it's a great place to let people know what's going on. And we've been doing that. It's kind of, we started that at the very beginning of the company. That was one of the first things that we offered to help make your practice look better. And if that's the business that you're in, we definitely want to make sure that you take advantage of that. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that's useful to you. Thank you, man. So that's a good one to start with. That's a good win. Thanks.
Of course. Yeah.
Terrence, I see you're back there, bud. You had a question you wanted to ask?
Yes, this time I did raise my hand. So,
Hey,
but no, question about the leads. I'm coming across a lot more of the DNC, a lot more on the do not call list. So what I'm finding is I'm obviously sending emails and doing my mailers. But I'm also, if I'm making calls, I'm seem to be calling like the non-PRs to try to get a hold of the best ways to get a hold of the PRs. So does anybody have any? Do we approach those non-PRs that could be the sisters or the brothers, and going in, we don't know how connected they are to the process or how disconnected they are to the process? How much should we lead into what we're calling about to the non-PRs trying to get a hold of the PRs?
Well, one of the things that obviously is that you have those numbers, and you can always call that number and say, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with, let's just say the PR's name is Joe Smith. I'm trying to get in touch with Joe Smith, and this number came up in regard to the estate of so-and-so. And that's a quick way to just make that segue. And they'll say, oh, why'd you want to get in touch with him for? Well, there you go. Now you can get started. If it's an error or something like that, we're never gonna encourage you to, call the DNCs. That's up to you to do that or make your decision about that. That's why we flag them out. Depending on where you are, you may want to be more and more careful about that as time goes on. That's why we think mail is increasingly more and more important. The one thing that you're bringing up, which is critical, is that the more touches you lay out there, the more opportunities you have to do what Jim said, which is to be at the right place at the right time when they make that decision to sell. Mm-hmm. You're doing the right things, but
So should I treat the non-PR in terms of the full pitch that I give to a regular, and because I did it a few ways just to be safer than sorry and not give an abridged version, but a couple times I've did it. They'll listen. They'll be, oh yeah, I understand. I'll see if I get a hold of Mark when I can, and I'll have him call you. So it's like, do you still treat them as if they are the PR, and just hopefully you can sell them so they can sell the PR to contact you, or give them an abridged version?
I'm not 100% sure I understood what you said. I heard the words.
Let me jump in, Terrence. I personally keep in mind that just because they may not be the decision maker doesn't mean that they don't have a financial interest in it. They very well may be one of the heirs. So, and even if they're not one of the heirs, they may have an emotional interest in getting, grandma's house sold. But no, I don't see any reason to give them any less of a pitch if the opportunity comes up. It kind of depends. I mean, if they just roll over and say, "Oh, here's Ed's phone number," okay, great, I'll call Ed. If they're asking that question, well, why do you want it? Then you're going to give a little bit more of a pitch. But I don't ever. Personally, I don't ever have a problem as long as you're talking to somebody, get everybody sold, get them all on board, because even if the executor is the decision maker, they're probably going to call a quorum of the family members to make a decision. They're probably not going to just cut everybody else out, even though they have the authority. They're probably going to want a consensus of who they should list with and how much money they're going to get out of the place. So yeah, no, I don't see any harm in pitching everybody you have a chance to talk to.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks.
Sure. Steve?
So they're probably also getting phone calls from other people as well. And I think just kind of keep that in mind. And unless somebody gets vehemently upset with you and doesn't want you to do it, then you make that decision as to whether or not you're going to call or not. But the nuance, I think, here, even under TCPA, is you're not selling anything. You're offering a service. If anything, you're trying to buy, particularly if you're an investor or a buyer. So you can flat out, hey, I'm not selling anything. I'm just looking to see if you need some help. And I've got some options for your consideration, so you can make the most informed decision under a very trying time.
For sure. And that's a good point. We shy away from it, but we got to remember what the whole purpose of TCPA is, and that's to prevent your inbox from filling up with, everybody that wants to sell you a new roof and insurance and all the other things that you get spam calls for. Or right now, depending on where you are, still getting political phone calls. It's crazy.
Well,
go ahead.
There's one way I get through is I find something I either love the area, I love the house, I love the school, and if they're a family member or somebody I think is going to get me to the next level, I say, I really love this house, or I love this neighborhood, I'm very passionate about it, and I put a lot of enthusiasm behind that, and I would just love the opportunity to be of service or help in some way, whatever you're doing. And in my case, I'm selling the service, I'm selling the home. And I have found that often gets you to the executor or who's ever in control with a lot of genuine enthusiasm. You can't BS them. If you don't like the area, you can't say you like the area because they're going to reject it. Yeah. Yeah. But find something you love about it. Or if you don't, then maybe you don't want that house.
And Bill, that's so important. The old axiom, figure out what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. Everybody else, not everybody, but so many agents or investors just talk about themselves. Me, 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 me. Here's my background. Here's what I do. You're talking about features and aspects of the property and the neighborhood that you appreciate, that you like. And, like we said before too, ask them questions and, find out what they need help with rather than just talk about yourself. So that's good.
It's all dialogue. I mean, the key element is put yourself in the position of the person you're talking to. And that's really a lot about all of this. If you were in that situation and somebody's on the other end of the line, what is it that they're going to say or you're going to hear going to make you either feel good about talking to them or engage in the dialogue? If money is the issue and they need money, well, they'll take the conversation in that direction. Try to go make a friend. You've got a lot to offer. You've got a lot of experience. You know a lot about it. Like Jim said, the more you know. And Bill made a great point that kind of the whole point is of his deal is talking about, hey, I'm really fond about that area. He probably has stories about the particular school or whatever, or that team, they did well last year or whatever. If those people know anything about that and they're local to that, makes a difference. Even if they didn't, they probably know about that sports team or whatever. And the more you can establish that commonality, that's important. Now you're somebody that's local, that's there. You may know people that can move more quickly and get stuff done. Find out if they're having problems. I mean, make a friend. Anything else about that? Anybody else got any particular ideas about that? And don't all jump at once. Hang on. Jim just said he got lost and lost his internet. So I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. So I do have a couple of questions that I'll throw out here just as a thought before Jim comes strolling back. What kind of, as far as the market is concerned right now in your local marketplace, and Aline, I'm going to ask you this as well. You're traveling back and forth between the markets because you're moving and all that. What do you see the biggest difference between, on East Coast, up north and down south? What's the biggest difference? Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted.
There we go. So for New Jersey, I'm definitely seeing the market it's vastly different. So New Jersey inventory is still low, and so there's definitely still multiple offers, but the one thing that is slowed that down where buyers are just buying regardless of the price is the interest rates are still holding buyers back. So they're not just jumping and offering crazy offers like we saw a number of years ago. So although so what's keeping the ball in motion quickly is the low inventory, whereas opposed to in Florida, down south, in the southwest part of Florida, we're seeing a lot of new construction, a lot of building, yet not the same level of sales because inventory is so extremely high. So really pricing has to get adjusted even below market value in order to get attention so that you stand out, or a listing stands out that much more than the competition.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I think, we sometimes we ended up a lot of the time generalizing in the marketplace. And I think the reason I keep asking these questions is it's different everywhere. It's not the same. Every time we are on these calls and Bill talks about what's going on in his market, I remember, the old, oh, it's California, it's different. And everybody, that's not any different out there than it is anywhere else. It is different. It's definitely different. I mean, it's not just the money, it's the whole approach. I mean, people's view of where they live in California is much different than it is, in other places. People place a lot of store by where you live and what your house looks like and, all that sort of stuff. And it's a financial game, particularly in the south part of it in Silicon Valley. It's part of the how well you're doing by where you live. And that's been part of the game for a long time down there. Did you live in Palo Alto? Well, that's a great place to live. You've moved up. Now it's, did you move over towards to the hills? Now you're in Santa Cruz and you have an estate. And it's how they kind of measure themselves in some ways. So it's important to kind of know those differences. Dill, I'm going to call on you now, bud. What's up? You got to unmute. There you go. Whoop. One more try. There you go.
So I had a question about divorce, but now I think I have two questions. So anybody have really challenged the divorce leads? I've been sitting on them, haven't really done much on them. And I'm trying to think of the best dialogue to approach them. It's a small community, and I don't know what's the best line of action with the divorce leads.
Bill Bird.
So, I've been really working on this approach.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting and pretty fascinated by it. So saying that they're getting divorced is just a click, hang up, or bleep you immediate.
Right.
And I ground it for a couple of months. Of course, I'm a hard learner, right? But so, now I go in and I really love the expression that, you were on a list. I have this tech guy, for some reason you came up on the list and something got filed, or there might be a life-changing moment in your life, right? So I find that life-changing moment is a great opening line because it makes them think. right? I haven't condemned them, but something is going on, right? And it seems to be working, and then it just seems to open up. I don't know why the conversation just seems to take off, right? And they say, well, I'm getting divorced. And so then I listen to them, and then I find out whether there's an attorney involved or not, or I try to. Most of the time in California, they don't want to use an attorney. They try to do it themselves. And that's kind of where I've learned that they want to, one wants to buy out the other, so might as well send them a lender, right? And then also I offer them a CMA, and then also I send them my listing presentation if I have that conversation. That seems to be going really, really well because I have another listing appointment tomorrow for another divorce. So that'll be 4 since I've changed my way. The other thing I'm still shocked about, I've said this before, is I have this one couple, which was my first divorce, and they're both using me to buy homes. I'm showing them, the partners, homes today, and the average sales price is $3 million. The ex-husband, I'm showing 1.5 million, and I sold their house for 1.7. So you just add those numbers up, right? And that's one divorce, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm really working on these new letters and I'm going to send it to Tim. I'm also going to send it to Toby, even though he likes the Eagles. But yeah, I definitely think they are great. The one thing I also want to say is it's great to get to them early so that you can guide them, because most of them aren't ready really to get serious about divorce until it's 90 days in. Now, this is California. Keep in mind, you can't get divorced less than 6 months in California.
Same in New York, I think.
Yeah.
Long process.
So that's it. And then I also recommend, again, if the other person can buy out the other person with cash or refinance, just get that over with quick. Either because hanging around with that being an option is just wasting your time, I think.
100%. Even before this, what my experience have been with the divorce clients, and they always come as part of the business, where always one spouse thinks that they can buy out the other. You're right about that. And
Right.
even though they can't, but they think so. At least they're right. So that's, thank you. I appreciate. I'm going to use that line. Life-changing event. Love it.
Hey,
That's
Bill, I love we got to thank Ed for that about a month ago, one of our subscribers. Until that point, I think everybody was either just pretending that they were just calling through the neighborhood, or they were mentioning the divorce. And I loved Ed's opening line. It just depends how playful you are. But he said, this might sound kind of crazy, but I was looking at this list, and your house raised its hand and said it might need to be sold. Does that make any sense to you? And the woman said, well, yeah, I think I know why, because I'm getting divorced. But that was a playful way of not confronting him about the divorce, but it'd be a little more honest than saying, oh, it's just an accident, I called you. So yeah, I love that, Bill. I'm glad I've heard from several people that is the record. They're doing better with that approach than anything else.
Interesting. All right, cool. I'm gonna try that. Now, second thing, my number this month on the probate leads, it's 129 people, but for the last 6, 7, 8 months have been really no more than 80, 85, 75, around that. I'm just thinking, does anybody else across the country got higher number too? Is only more people dying in Staten Island?
Just happens, oftentimes it happens where a court is understaffed, and all of a sudden they get the approval to hire another person, and they get their backlog cleared up.
Gotcha.
That's why we can't guarantee X number every month. It's just because it's a variable.
I wasn't concerned about the number. I was just concerned about the number of deaths. I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
But
anything in particular? Fortunately, the answer to that is no. There's no particular thing that we're aware of like that. I would not certainly want to think that. Steve, what were you going to say, bud?
So I'm glad to hear that Bill's having great, he's getting great returns on that very broad statement, because even some of the folks I've dealt with who have divorce leads, I use that as an option for them to consider. And I also reiterate, regardless of what niche you're working, whether it be divorce, probate, pre-probate, late mortgage, the last thing you want to do is let somebody know on the other end of the phone that you've been reading their mail and you have more information than they think you have. Okay, so be careful with that. In other words, you may know, I often say, like with probate, that's what I work. Hey, out of curiosity, if there's property, and I know there's property because the lead tells me that, have you figured out what it is you'd like to do with it? And like Bruce will say, when they come out and say, we haven't figured it out yet, he goes, they're going to sell. It's just a matter of time. So that's where the nurturing comes in that you discussed as well. So clearly, you just want to be very broad, let them know that you're there and willing to provide assistance, kind of like what Bill's doing. He's, hey, here's a mortgage guy in case you see if you can get qualified. Here's your CMA on your house. He's providing them with information and value that they don't have to go for. It's being dropped in their lap where no one else is doing that. I mean, you got folks who are calling to see if they want to list their house. And maybe they are so bold to say, hey, I understand you're getting divorced. I mean, that's crazy. I think you're looking at, just let the guillotine fall.
That's an extremely good point. You never, people don't want to feel like their information's on the street.
That's right.
Avoid that like the plague. That's the worst thing you could ever do is, hey, I hear you're getting divorced. Well,
that is the number one objection I get with the probate leads, where some of them, not all, but they're very concerned about how do you know? So you have to go into that explanation. And this is a New York style. So, the language is much more interesting.
Well,
when
it's
they ask
public records.
Public
when they
record.
ask a
That's
question,
why.
Yeah, it's public records. I've said that for years. It's public records.
Yeah.
Right.
I try to go into that, of course. But remember, this is also the very heavy emotional time for them, right? So the logic doesn't play. I've spoken to the same people very emotionally, and then 3 months later, the same person is much more calm because they have to come to the different mindset.
I've got a question.
Mhm.
So I've noticed the students I have in New York are so different than the guys I have in LA, or it's very interesting.
Mhm.
But I typically get 5 responses. 1, you're an ambulance chaser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
2, I have a family friend, relative, best friend, coverage, lover, whatever. That's a realtor, right? 3, I'm going to rent it, which I love when they say that because California does not like that. So anyway, 4 is, yes, you can help me, but I'm really torn up. And 5 is, yes, when can we meet? And that definitely does happen. 5 happens every once in a while.
right.
I'm just curious, what are other people's responses that they
I
get?
have.
I was about to mention something and I didn't realize I was muted, Dill, but I think when you get that kind of response, what you can preface it by before you get that is to just, do this pattern interrupt, which is basically, I'm not sure if it's relevant. I'm reaching out to you, but I'm not sure if it's relevant. So you take them off the defense. So whatever you say next is not necessarily to them, because you know what? Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. And when they get defensive, you say, well, clearly I didn't have the right information.
That's great.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're not an ideal with New Jersey, New York. So I know it's a different
Mentality,
it's a different person. And you know what? That is really, really important. From state to state, you could be on the East Coast and have completely different people type responses just along the same.
Exactly. At least I don't know if you got that, but I got few calls just from the letter from very angry people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just few, but the background is interesting because they call, they're very angry because how dare you do that, you ambulance chaser, blah, blah, blah. And then somewhere in the conversation, I have the same dialogue. I go into the sympathy mode. Look, I'm sorry. I apologize. I totally try to calm them down. And then a few times in the end, they open up that they're real estate brokers. And then they want to find out how I got the leads.
That's funny. And sometimes
I'm like, wow.
I've had situations where I've turned people around and they're apologizing to me at the end of the conversation. Because, I go as far as to say when they get very irate and I say to them, whatever the name is, and I address them and I'll say, I genuinely, my intention is not to upset you. You have to understand that this is a difficult call for me to make, but I do it anyway because I know the value that I can bring to people if it's relevant to you.
Yeah.
So clearly, if it wasn't, I'm truly sorry. But I explained to them, like, look, this is my job, this is what I do, and I bring value to people when it's applicable.
On our last closing from a probate lead, the guy called, he became a raving fan. And at the closing table, he goes on and says how great I was in handling that and objection. The letter, he loved it because it answered all his questions and all that. His attorney was somebody who apparently didn't like the realtors. He's not everyday real estate closing guy. So I had to watch the look on his face while the guy was just raving about me. Where the buyers loved it, everybody was great because they found a good home. And I'm just thinking that some attorneys actually have that feeling about that too, that turn out. So I'm trying to think of the ways to handle the lawyers
Yep.
in this whole
In the
wraparound.
same way, I found that I flipped the switch when I believed the value that I was bringing to the table. When you approach the calls that you genuinely bring value to the other person on the line, if it's relevant, then they're going to hear that. If
Okay.
you're on the other line going, oh my gosh, I hope they don't hang up. Oh my gosh, I hope they don't, call me an ambulance chaser or all the other things they could do, or the attorney thinks I'm an idiot. When you approach it, you could bring value to attorneys and they'll refer you even before you bring them a client. And I've had that happen multiple times.
I had one of the state attorneys, he used to have his own broker license, some do on the side. And he had somebody hired who did this kind of sales for him, didn't succeed. And I know him for 25 years. And this about 2-3 years ago, I did a couple of sales for him. One day he just take me on the side, start talking to me. He goes, how the hell you get to charge that much commission and they still happy with you? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know how to tell you this, but I mean, he failed at this by hiring people to work for him to take care of his estate business on the side, right? And so I told him, I said, I don't know. You got to become a client to find out. Yeah.
Hey, Dill, one quick question. And then, Missy, I'm going to ask you to unmute so you can talk. But hey, Dill, the attorney that you said you sat through that closing and, he was sitting there having to listen to the guy talk well about you. You should have booked a meeting with him. Did you do that?
I tried right in front of him. I built him up. He was one of those guys, acted like he had multiple offices, one-man show, all hoopla on the website with 7 locations and got nothing behind the scenes. So I already knew about him. I did the research. I spoke to the other attorney. He knew he was nobody. So I purposely told him, I said, oh, you must be a tough guy to get hold of because I know you got multiple locations. Where can I get hold of you? And we'll set up a meeting. He goes, oh, I'm very busy. He's like a puffy guy, in his own world.
Yeah.
Right? So, but he didn't want to meet. Call me, and if I remember you, then we'll have a meeting. I'm like, okay.
All right, bud. All right, good enough. Missy.
Hi, my name is Missy Houston. I'm brand new to the group. This is my first day of listening in. So thank you for having me. I am in Knoxville, Tennessee. I handle all of Tennessee. I'm an auctioneer and a broker. And I have a whole program that's like a one-stop shop. So I tell everybody that I'm the easy button for probate. So I have an attorney that I work with, that I set them up with. I have a cleaning crew. I have everything that I'll just walk them through the process. So I'm curious about if y'all were getting started, what would you want to hear from your group about starting with the probate leads? And I'm getting the website set up for the probate website. I have my own website, but I'm going to get that set up. Any other suggestions that y'all would make to a newbie?
Oh my, there's a lot of things. I mean, are you already, do you have a folks assembled? And leave yourself unmuted there. I won't have to keep unmuting you. We'll talk a little bit just real quickly. There you go. Are you, first of all, do they have a basketball team in Knoxville of any kind?
A small basketball team, small baseball team.
Yeah. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, but I'll still talk to you.
Well, so we'll talk on Saturday.
I mean, the main thing that I would encourage you to do a couple things, which is we've been doing these calls for how many? What is this one, Jim? What is our number?
521.
All right, so there's 500 some odd hours of content out there, and we talk about it a good bit. I'm not blowing you off at all. All I'm saying is a lot of resources out there that are available. If you go, are you part of our Facebook group?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, you definitely go to our mastermind, the All the Leads Mastermind Facebook group, and all of the resources are there and available. You can certainly listen to them there. I also want to point out to everybody about this. We got a notice from everybody got the same notice from Facebook that they're going to start deleting stuff that's older than 30 days. They're going to start making some room. I guess they're getting so running out of room. They're clearing the decks a bit. So go take a look. You can also search a lot of that stuff. And were you gonna say something, Bill?
I just thought you were done. I was gonna say go to the website and look at the videos that are there, and then also Bruce's courses are really good.
Yeah, I was absolutely going to say the same thing. If you really want to become familiar with what the kind of best practices are, Bruce Hill, who's not on the call today, I think Bruce is traveling, offers a probate mastery course that we highly recommend, and he can get you through that. There's a basic foundations course that's free, that's included. We encourage you to take that. That's built in. All these are things that don't cost you any money, and it's part of what we provide as part of the service and part of what we put together for you being a subscriber. You're already on the getting the right stuff put together for yourself, which is great. That's important as well. So get your website done. I also want to make one other point. I'll do a little commercializing this as well. That we've got over 80, 90 now, I guess, custom letter templates to choose from. So as you're putting your mail out, you want to make sure that you customize it and make it look like what you need to look like. And we have a great talented group of people who are marketing implementation specialists. Have you had your introductory meeting yet? Your onboarding with them?
No, not yet. Except the kids.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay, well that'll help you a lot, and they'll be able to help you, find the right resources that you need, and then certainly be here every week and ask questions as you start doing it and you run into things that you're working with. Definitely ask a lot of questions and do that. But it's like anything else. The more you're putting yourself and your name in front of the people that you're dealing with, better off you're going to be, to get some of that done. Do you have any more specific questions of things you're looking for?
No, I was just kind of wanted to put that out there. The one comment I had about Dill's information about getting in front of attorneys is we have happy hour with attorneys once a week. We have like 4 or 5 attorneys that do a happy hour at the same restaurant that's close to court. And so we'll go every week and have happy hour with them, and they loose lip a little bit more when they're drinking. So
Surprise.
Great, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. Well, it's like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you're going to be at it. And depending on the results on Saturday, I may or may not talk to you next week, but we'll see how that works out.
Right.
And just anytime you want to be known, just raise your hand, click on the react button at the bottom or the raise hand button, and you'll see something that says raise hand, and you will know that you're there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Hey, I'll get to you in just one second there, Roger. I just want to add one other thing that you guys need to be aware of. We're seeing a lot of activity right now on our late mortgage product. I urge you to take a look at that, talk to your sales rep about it if you've got questions. It's kind of late in the call, and I'm not going to go into it in depth now, but that's very important. And certainly we would urge you to expand your practice to take advantage of that, because it's a very defined situation that you're dealing with. We've got some good tools to do that with, and we're doing a great job with it. The stuff that we're getting is before the NODs are out on the street, and it gets you an opportunity to talk to people when you can still do them some good and help them out well. So certainly avail yourself of that from a product standpoint. Roger, I'm going to call on you real quick. What's up, buddy?
Thank you.
Roger.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Aline and Bill have great, we were talking about what we were talking about, the divorce stuff on that. And I think that they made a great case for starting a divorce conversation with people is putting the tension down by asking the right questions. And I think that they did a great job of outlining that. My go-to question after you've managed to make a connection with the divorcees or the potential divorcees is what's important to you and your moving forward. And that way, then they start drawing a picture of where they're going to go. My go-to question always starts with what's important to you, because it takes the attention off of me trying to sell them something, and it shows that I'm trying to take care of them. And it's doing that. And Missy, you have got your unique sales proposition on the front end of what you do, the easy button for probate. I think that's an awesome USP. You need to maximize that. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. That's great. That's great. Well, we did get a win of the week this week, which is good. Happy to know that occurred. And Jimmy, take us home, buddy.
All right, another great call, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here today. I want to particularly thank Matt, Bill, Steve, Coley, Aline, Terrence, Eric, Dill, Missy, and Roger for actively participating. And I want to challenge each of you. A lot of good exchange, a lot of good ideas on this call. Just take one idea that inspired you, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday. Take care.